I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank you.
God bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. It's such a delight to be with you today, and it's also a delight to have my dear and precious friend, Derrick Day, here with us today. Thank you, Derrick.
Good to be here,
For
Henry.
being on the show. Last time I saw Derrick, when last time I saw you?
About 6 years ago.
It was about 6 years ago, and when he was a pastor, I did a presentation, or what many would call
Preached a sermon.
Preached a sermon, yeah, at his church at that time, and we had a great time. I really haven't seen him since then, and he hasn't been on the show in a while too. So it's so good to have him here. There's been a lot of changes since then. He's still Derrick Day, but he's not the same as he was then when he was involved with Christianity. Our subject today is the pastor who became atheist. Never did a show on this subject before, and don't know a better candidate to talk about it than the man himself, the one and only Derrick Day. Thank you for being on the show today.
It's good to be here, Henry. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you too. I want to start out with this question because a lot of people have an ideal of what atheism is. Some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a clear definition of those, our viewers that's watching? What is an atheist?
An atheist is the default position of every human being. Everybody's born an atheist because basically
I like that.
a theist is someone who basically believes in a god or gods, right? An atheist, the A in the prefix basically means not any gods, no gods, right? So basically, an atheist is someone who believes that there are no supreme beings, there are no gods. Simple.
Oh, awesome. I like what you said. People come into the world as an atheist. If you think about it, when a child comes into the world, they don't know nothing about Christianity. They know nothing about Jesus. They know nothing about nothing.
The default position of every human being is an atheist. When you're born, you know nothing about any God. You know nothing about any creator or anything, any worship or any tradition or anything like that. You are indoctrinated into that.
Exactly. Wow. That's powerful. So a lot of you know Derrick Day. He has a couple shows that he does himself. You probably seen him on our show quite a few times, but for our new viewers that's watching that may not know who you are, can you familiarize yourself with our audience about a little bit about yourself, history about your ministry in the past?
Yeah. So I was basically a pastor. I was in ministry for 30 years, and I was a senior pastor for 15 of those years, and for 10 years I was a bishop. And a bishop is just a pastor to pastors. It's a fancy title that doesn't really mean a whole lot. But the reality is that over time, I began to study. I studied the canonization of Scripture. I studied the historicity of the Bible. I've studied the culture, the geography, the languages, and all of these things. And when you take it all in a total, Henry, basically you start seeing that there are inconsistencies in all of this. And when you drill down into it even deeper, what you find is that a lot of it is contrived. A lot of it is concocted. It's fabricated. And that was kind of like what led me down the path. So again, I was a pastor. I was a bishop.
You did evangelistic work too.
I did too. Yeah, I traveled the world to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
Right. And I really believed it. I was sincere, and that's one of the things people will say about an atheist is they say, "Well, you never really believed."
Yeah, those that are watching, they may say, were you really in it?
Yeah, I mean, I was in. You actually preached at my church.
Yeah,
Listen,
I did.
I was in it wholeheartedly. I was in it to win it. And the thing is that what happened with me is there was a series of events, and we'll talk about that as we get into into the discussion. But the reality is that when you really look at it holistically, it doesn't hold up. It's not watertight. The wheels fall off, and that's what we'll get to.
That's awesome. What led to your change of heart? You were a pastor. You did all these wonderful things, evangelistic work. In the words of a lot of people would say, you were sold out for Jesus. And all of a sudden, there was a change of heart. Was there a particular event that happened? Was there a series of events?
That's the big thing, Henry, is that it was not all of a sudden. This was the product of probably about 5 to 7 years.
Oh, see, I didn't know that myself.
Because it began when I wrote the book Deconstructing Religion back in 2016, and that I started asking questions about what I believed and questioning some of the things that were the basic tenets of Christianity. But over time, what I saw is that Christians would not act in the way that they taught. Their actions were inconsistent with their beliefs, and then there was something in Scripture. God is not a respecter of persons, right? So that means that if God is not a respecter of persons, what he'll do for one believer, he'll do for another.
Yeah.
So what I saw was, and I saw this in stark relief with my own family, my dad got COVID, and they didn't give him any hope for survival. But meanwhile, my mother-in-law, she didn't get COVID, but she got sick. And so they're both in the hospital at the same time. So I get to see the volume and the velocity, the quality and the quantity of the prayer on both sides. And it was a wash. It was equal. So by that, in the end, either both my my dad and my mother-in-law, both they should have lived, or they both should have died.
Yeah.
But instead, my dad lived, my mother-in-law died.
Yeah.
Okay. So clearly, if God exists, he's a respecter of persons.
Yeah.
Because all the prayer was equal, all of the quantity, quality, volume, velocity, everything is equal, but one lives and one dies.
You had another incident you told me about not too long ago about a niece or someone that passed.
And this was actually almost 10 years ago. My great niece got brain cancer, and we prayed and we fasted and all of this stuff, and she died. And a lot of the people, they try to justify, they say, well, God gave her ultimate healing. No, that's not healing. Death is not healing. But she died, and she didn't die an elegant, quiet, peaceful death. That was not the way it went. It was horrible, it was painful, all of that. And so I had a moment. I was a fist shaking moment at God. I mean, really, God, what the hell?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, what the hell?
Yeah. and I got a lot of what I thought were answers, but they were really my own justifications because there's no God to speak. So I'm thinking of all these justifications, and the reality is she died because she died. Period. Full stop. And if there's a God, every children's hospital in America and in the world will be emptied out. Why? Because I say, if I had God power for a day, Henry, God power for one day, the first thing I would do is heal all the sick children.
Yeah.
And if that's me, in my little finite peanut brain, imagine what Almighty God should do.
Yeah.
So,
and that's not happening.
No, it's not happening. So that's a challenge for me. And people say, well, God's ways are not our ways, and his thoughts are not our thoughts, and his thoughts are higher.
Everything to avoid what's really going on.
But the reality is, you and I are both parents, right?
Yeah.
And in raising kids, you have to make your intentions clear. You have to make your instructions clear, because if you don't make the instructions clear, if you don't make your will clear, then they can't do what you expect them to do, and then you can't hold them accountable. But we say, well, God gives us His word, but the word is ambiguous, right? So how do we get clarity from that? How do we decide what actually needs to be done? God has not given us clear instructions, so how can He hold us accountable for anything? So
that's amazing. So as it relates to Christianity, that's where you were at then. What do you believe today? Like, somebody's watching, like, we knew Derrick Day years ago when he preached, and they're like, we don't know where he stands today. Where are you at today? What is it you exactly believe today?
I don't believe anything. Now, what I do I have confidence in certain things. I have confidence in what is tangible, measurable, repeatable. Tangible, what can I detect with my senses, or what can I detect with a sensor, right? Like an electronic device or some kind of sensing device. Or what can I mathematically model, right? Measurable, can I quantify it? Can I determine the dimensions of it, the power of it? And, and again, can that be mathematically modeled, or can it be detected? And then finally, repeatable. What's like this tree, if I take a pine cone from this pine tree and plant seeds from that pine cone, I'll get other pine trees. I won't get tomato plants from this. Right? This is a pine tree, and it's a repeatable process. Or if I go to an automobile manufacturer and I see this Chevrolet over here, guess what? I can see where Chevrolets are being repeatedly made. So those are the things. And when you look at God, God is not tangible. You can't detect him. God is not measurable. You can't quantify him. And God is not repeatable. All three, the absence of all those three things are the same thing that would be the definition of something that doesn't exist.
Yeah. And somebody told me the other day, I don't know if it was Cal, somebody was telling me, God has always, throughout history, has always had a spokesperson. But never shows up himself.
Never shows up for himself.
I don't understand that. I think that's so connected to what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you think about it, why would God need a middleman? One of the things I remember, like in multi-level marketing, right? They always the big draw of multi-level marketing is like it's direct sales. We eliminate the middleman, right? You're basically, which is, you're not really eliminating the middleman, but you follow what I'm saying. And it's always what God's man or God's woman has to say, not what God himself says. And I'm going to give you a case study. Moses, right? Everybody says, well, God never actually wrote anything. Well, according to the Bible, God actually did write something. He wrote the original 10 Commandments that say they were written with the finger of God. But Moses came down from the mountain and saw the people misbehaving, and he got pissed and threw the tablets down. So God is like, all right, dude, you broke them. Now you're on your own. Well, now this is the justification for a man to write something. In other words, God didn't write anything. I think that if this story actually happened, they were blank tablets.
It's all man-made. Many people will look at your position, and I don't know why people would assume this. I never have. Even when you transition from being a Christian pastor to an atheist, I've never assumed that you were angry, or you're bitter, or you're upset. Those who have that perception of you, what's your message to them? And secondly, why do they feel that way about you?
People always assume that when people leave Christianity is because they're bitter, because they're angry, because they've been hurt, they're traumatized. There's a whole genre of, how can you say, healing arts that's dedicated to religious trauma. I don't have any religious trauma. Religion didn't hurt me in any way. I didn't grow up in the church, so I didn't go through that. And when I was in ministry, I was always giving. I was always on the one giving, and no one taking from me. So it wasn't that I was hurt. I'm not hurt. What I am is, I am somebody that has seen it for what it is, and has made some empirical judgments about it. And right now, Henry, today, I'm happier than I've ever been. I mean, I'm absolutely ecstatic. The weight of a judging God, the weight of all these rules, regulation, performance, all of that, all of that's been lifted. It's gone. So now I walk literally with the newness of life, literally with freedom.
How has it affected your mental health, your transition?
Oh, I mean, it's helped me tremendously because, again, I no longer feel like I have to walk on eggshells. And back when I was a pastor, I felt like I had to do things a certain way. I had to be the man of God. I had to be holy. I had to be righteous and sanctified and filled with the Holy Ghost. And now I don't have to do any of that stuff. There's no fear. I'm totally at peace.
You can be yourself.
I'm my total, not just authentic, Henry, but my best authentic self. It's a difference.
I don't understand I'm trying to see how to word it. I don't understand the connections within the church Christianity, because you had a lot of people in the fundamentalist camp, in the church camp. We could even include the grace camp.
Yeah.
We're just buddies with you. You spoke at some of their churches. You counseled some of them. You helped. You financially support all of them. As soon as you became atheists, they're all gone.
Kick to the curb.
Talk a little bit about that. How does that make you feel that they did that to you?
You know, this is the thing. I talk about this all the time. My oldest two friends, the two people that I've been friends with the longest, I've been friends with for 59 years. We've been friends since we were 2 years old, right? And they've gone through every transition, every good thing, every bad thing that's happened in my life, and they don't kick me to the curb, and I don't kick them to the curb. You know, we've dealt with our changes, with our life changes, with our growth, with whatever, our joy, our pain, our gladness and sorrow. We've gone through it all. So I know what authentic, genuine relationships look like and feel like, right? And so a lot of these people who have just abandoned me in my change in belief, my change in faith, I realized that they were never friends to begin with, or they were friends conditionally.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. Sometimes people are your friends because they're your friends, and no matter what happens, they're going to always be with you. But there are some people, you have friends who are friends because they're the host of the Brother Henry and You show.
Yeah.
You're a known preacher, musician. There are things that you do that draw people to you. And as long as you're doing these things in the framework or the paradigm that they think is right, they're with you.
Yeah.
But the minute that you deviate from that,
Which I have been
and
doing.
you have, and I've seen it. And here's the thing: you haven't gone to where I've gone.
Yeah.
You've just simply said, "Hey, let's take a fresh look at our faith, at our belief."
Yeah.
And just for saying that, you're castigated. So for me, it's like people have just not only abandoned me, they critique me or criticize me publicly, or they try to chastise me, right? And honestly, I say this all the time. At the end of the day, you can't affect my finances, and you can't kick my so with those two things,
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about what you say or think about me.
Yeah, well, I like that. How does that make you feel, though, that they did that to you? Like,
Well,
I mean, at that time, was it a process? Was it like, dang, this dude just unfriended me from Facebook?
Well,
I mean,
at first it was painful, because when it first started happening, it was painful because you're like looking at people, hey, I ministered with this person, I fellowship with them, I counseled them, I supported them, all of this stuff. And at first it was painful, but then I was like, this is pretty much par for the course. This is now the expectation.
Yeah.
That what people are going to do is that when they see that I'm an atheist, that I must be serving the devil.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to get struck by lightning by standing too close to me, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, okay, if that's how you feel, good on you.
That's powerful. My last question is, what value has atheism added to your life?
Well,
You went a little into it earlier, where you said you are as happy as you've ever been.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, here's the thing. Atheism, per se, hasn't added anything to my life, right? What has added to my life is the absence of theism, right? So the being an atheist doesn't really add anything per se. What this whole thing does is it takes the pressure off. It takes the need to perform off. It takes all of these rules, restrictions. It takes all of those away. And so as a result, I wake up every day with the idea that, okay, what can I do to improve my life today? That's number one. And number two, what can I do to improve the lives of others? Because I believe that now I'm looking at being a value add to people like yourself, not because it's going to gain me any reward in heaven, that it's going to gain me any favor with God, but simply because it's the right thing to do.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Derrick, I appreciate you
Thank
so
you,
much
Henry. It's good being
for your
here, man.
time, and what a wonderful interview. Can you tell our audience how they can connect with you, some of the things that you're doing,
Sure.
how they can watch you?
Yeah, so I do Phreology Friday with Aaron Tomlinson every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Aaron's an ex-pastor, as am I. Aaron's more metaphysical and mystical than I am, and I'm more atheist. But we talk about a variety
Y'all
of
have
subjects.
great chemistry together.
We do. It's like people think that Aaron and I have known each other forever, but the reality is,
Yeah.
Aaron and I haven't known each other as long as you and I have known each other.
Yeah.
But our chemistry is good. So Phreology Friday, that's one thing you want to check out. And then also Sunday mornings, I usually do a live stream, and I talk about practical things. I call it Forward Live, and it's basically real talk about real situations. And then also I'm doing a master class on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And basically that's a Zoom link. It's not a publicly broadcast event, but basically I talk in this particular series. I'm talking about unpacking yourself. The series is called All About Me, which me means you, right?
Yeah.
So understanding yourself, because most people, my hypothesis is, Henry, that most people have no idea who they are. Most people don't know themselves. And you have to think about this, that the most important person that you're ever going to meet, that you're ever going to associate with, talk to, or have a relationship with, is the person you see in the mirror every day. And it's sad that most people don't know that person.
Wow. And if you connect with Derrick, you'll be able to watch that and get those resources. I really appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, and
seeing
also
me
the
today.
socials, right? On Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I'm everywhere. Just look up Derrick E. Day, DerrickEday, or www.derrickday.com.
That's awesome. And I wanted to publicly say I appreciate you and your friendship.
Yes,
and
sir.
you have a friend in me.
Appreciate you, Henry.
You too. God bless you. Have an amazing. I like that. I like that. He said, "What God?" I said that on purpose. Connect with us on youtube.com/Henry Harris 100, Soul TV /Facebook.com. Also, the Brother Henry and You Show. Till next time, have an amazing day. He said, "What?" He said, "What God?"
Yeah, don't edit that out, Henry.
I'm not. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. And I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God
you.
bless you too. Thank you for having me.